Okay, so today I have with me Tyler Kelly. He is a manager of about 2,000 acres on the outside of Fayetteville. He runs a cattle operation here. He raises cattle and sells them to the stockyards around here. And then I also have Holden Williams. He is a manager of an electrical utility company outside of Houston in Texas. So, is there anything y'all want to say to start off, or anything else y'all want to talk about?
Howdy. Let's do it.
Proceed.
Well, all right, we'll start with the first question. So, I'm in a alternative dispute resolution class. That's what I'm doing this interview for, and you know, it's an interesting class, and it's basically we just talk about negotiation, mediation, and arbitration. But one of the big things is 5 styles of conflict that you know you go through on a daily basis, and a lot of people don't realize, including myself, before I started this class, that you can use all 5 of these and not realize it. But the 5 styles of conflict that we talk about is avoid, accommodate, compete, compromise, and collaborate. And we'll start with you, TK, Tyler Kelly. And which out of the 5 styles do you think you use the most on managing the ranch outside of Fayetteville?
On a day-to-day basis, dealing with anywhere between 5 and 10 people working with me, I would say probably most of all compete. Because being the head of a ranch, everything has to be in order, everything has to be right to a certain extent. And to be the head of all that, you kind of got to compete with yourself and with everyone else's ideas and stuff to get stuff done the way it's supposed to be and the way it needs to be to produce money and to keep everything alive and keep everything where it needs to be. But as far as competing,
So you're basically saying, if you get in a negotiation, you gotta tell them, you gotta tell your employees how
to a
it's
certain
done.
extent, you're competing with them, but you're also working with them. You don't want them to fear you or, get mad at you or anything. So, competing, you got to kind of dance around that word because it can be too strong at times.
Oh yeah, for sure. Is there any other out of the 5 styles that you would say that you might use?
Collaborate would be another big one.
I guess you gotta
with 2,000
communicate between each other, so
yeah,
you gotta kind of be on the same page, I guess.
2,000 acres, that's a lot to handle for one person or even with 5 people. So, you got to collaborate and split up and know what's going on at all times and just have a plan. So, collaboration's another huge one.
For sure. Well, thank you for that. Holden, out of the 5 styles, which do you think you use the most? It's avoid, accommodate, compete, compromise, and collaborate. Which do you think you use mostly on a day-to-day basis when dealing with conflict?
On a day-to-day basis, I would say collaborate.
Collaborate?
Because with the industry that I'm involved in, it's a very dangerous job. So without collaboration, then anyone could die at any second. And by the way, I mean that is if the guy in the air that I'm going 200 feet in the air and I collaborate with my workers. So I'm general foreman of the workers and they're in charge. I'm in charge of what they do on a day-to-day basis.
So sorry if I pause you for a second. If I'm right, your people's climbing up telephone poles, right?
Yes, correct.
Hundreds of feet in the air.
Yes, 195 feet to be
190 feet.
345,000 volts of electricity.
So it's a real hazard.
And then, so I could sit on the ground and tell them what to do in the air, but I don't believe in that. So the way I say I collaborate is I work with them in the air, and I make sure the guy that is in the air all the way to the guy on the ground sitting in the truck knows what's supposed to be going on. Because if they see something wrong on the ground, they can call it to us in the air and collaborate with us and say they see something wrong. So the way I do it is I work hand to hand with them to make sure that they know what to do every day, that they all know the same rules. Because if they don't know the same rules, then someone could get hurt.
Interesting. So, collaborate. You're big. Would you say there's any other out of the four others? Avoid, accommodate, compete, and compromise you might possibly use, or is collaborate? You know, mainly the one you use from day-to-day basis.
The only other one I would use would be compete.
Compete. Sometimes you gotta tell them
To prove a point, is if they say they know something that you don't, and you're doing it the safe way, and they're trying to take it the short way.
Yeah.
You can compete and show you know more.
And especially being a young manager as yourself, sometimes I'm sure you have older workers than yourself, so I could see where compete would definitely have to play a role because, I mean,
you have to
those older people might not think you should be telling them what to do, basically.
Despite the amount of years they've worked in the industry, you have to compete your knowledge against theirs.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, all right, thank y'all for that. So, another question. Research shows that people with both of y'all's level of expertise, when I say that, I mean in a manager position, that y'all deal with conflict 25% of the day, each and every day. How accurate do you think that is? And Tyler, we'll start with you.
I would say, I mean, with my line of work, I mean, it just depends on the day. You know, it kind of depends on how everybody wakes up, on what side of the bed they wake up. And, I mean, conflict is a huge one, you know, because everybody's got their ideas, and then it's really high-paced, and, I mean, conflict is huge. So 25% would be probably pretty accurate.
Would you say you may deal with conflict with your work, like you come in conflict with your employees more than 25%, or you would say right around 25? Are you saying right around 25?
I'll say right around 25 because, I mean,
a lot of stuff may go.
You got to get along to go along. Yeah, just make sure everything runs smoothly. So, yeah, conflict it's there, but no more than 25%.
All right. Well, Holden, what like I said, research shows that people in both of y'all's expertise deals with conflict 25% of the day in the electrical utilities company. Do you think that's accurate, or more or less 25%? What do you think? Or
I agree with 25% of the day, because some days you'll get a perfect day, the next day it'll be a horrible day. So it would
kind of evens out.
It would average out to about 25%. But with both of the industries we work in, is everything changes day to day, whether it be the elevation of the ground, the humidity.
Oh, yeah.
Anything can change your day-to-day operations. So the same thing you do every day changes, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
And so you deal with conflict 25% of the time, I'd say, with either one of us, because it changes day to day, and someone has to be able to elaborately think of how to resolve that conflict. And if they don't have an elaborate enough mind, then they cannot resolve it with themselves. So you have to for them.
Absolutely. Well, all right, we'll go to the next question. So, a man by the name of Bill Urey, he uses this term, going to the balcony. And that's basically like you get in a negotiation, you get in a conflict with one of y'all's employees, and sometimes things get heated, and, you might lose your cool, basically. And going to the balcony is basically like taking a step back and getting everything together, looking at it from possibly a different perspective, and then negotiating from there. Do you ever do that? Do you ever see yourself doing that? Or do you think that's a good or a bad term to use? What's your thought on that? And Tyler, we'll start with you.
I think that term is completely relevant. I mean, even in day-to-day, you're going to get in conflicts with your coworkers, and, I feel like taking a step back is definitely needed, in most things. But, for me, that's easy. 2,000 acres, send them to the other side of the farm and, come back and meet in the middle at the end of the day,
Kind of get
Yeah.
everything,
And
lose your steam and get
having
everything back
land
on
to
the
look
same
at, and just being out, away from everything else with nothing else bothering you but that. It gives you plenty of time to think if you take a step back and figure out what needs to go, how it needs to go.
Kind of collect all your thoughts
Yeah,
and
definitely
put them
I
on the
feel like-
table when you get back together.
I feel like being over a group of people, you have to do that at times.
And Holden, we don't have much time, but if you could quickly, describe or tell us how you think about going to the balcony, that term, and if you use it.
I would definitely agree with that because, in my opinion, there's a reason you're the head of operations and they aren't. You're paid for your mind to think elaborately and not them. So your job is to think for them, and so at that point, you're supposed to step back and think for them, even when they can't think straight.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate both of y'all taking the time and talking to me about this, and it really means a lot. And I just wish y'all the best. And thank y'all.